Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Science fiction on this Monday, X-1 from 68 years ago, May 22nd, 1955. Knock. And we thank you for tuning in. Well, you know what that means. Yeah, knock. The the last man on Earth sat in a room, and there was a knock on the door. That's where the title comes from. Thank you for tuning in on this Monday, 22nd day of May, 142nd day of the year, 223 days till we get to 2024. First life insurance policy in the U.S. issued in Philadelphia on this date in 1761. Abraham Lincoln received patent number 6469 for his floating dry dock in 1849. 1947. Harry S. Truman's doctrine brought aid to Greece and Turkey to combat the spread of communism.
I therefore ask the Congress to provide authority for assistance to Greece and Turkey in the amount of $400 million for the period ending June 30th, 1948. The seeds of totalitarian regimes are nurtured by misery and want. They spread and grow in the evil soil of poverty and strife. They reach their full growth when the hope of a people for a better life has died. We must keep that hope alive. The free peoples of the world look to us for support in maintaining their freedoms. If we falter in our leadership, we may endanger the peace of the world, and we shall surely endanger the welfare of this nation.
Congress approving $400 million in military and economic aid to Greece and Turkey. Increased American aid helped defeat the Greek Communist Party after interim defeats for government forces from 1946 to 1948. 1964, President Johnson announced the goals of his great societal reforms to bring an end to poverty and racial injustice in America.
We have the opportunity to move not only toward the rich society and the powerful society, but upward to the great society. The great society rests on abundance and liberty for all. It demands an end to poverty and racial injustice, to which we're totally committed in our time.
Johnson would win a decisive victory over his arch-conservative Republican opponent, Barry Goldwater of Arizona. American liberalism at its high tide under President Johnson. 1972, President Nixon arrived in Moscow, becoming the first U.S. president to visit the Soviet Union. 1972, the country of Ceylon became Sri Lanka. In 1980, President Carter visiting the area of the Mount St. Helens volcanic eruption and was, as many others had been, stunned by the devastation.
I've never seen or heard of anything like this before. Somebody said it looked like a moonscape, but the moon looks like a golf course compared to what's up there. And it is a horrible looking sight. The mountains are just completely devastated. You can't see where the ground even was formerly.
Approximately 57 people were killed directly, including innkeeper Harry R. Truman, photographer Reed Blackburn, and geologist David A. Johnson. Hundreds of square miles reduced to wasteland, causing over $1 billion in damage in today's money, $36 billion. Thousands of game animals killed, and Mount St. Helens left with a crater on its north side as a result of that Mount St. Helens volcanic eruption on this date in 1980. Another eruption on this date in 1992, Johnny Carson hosting the last episode of his Tonight Show.
It has been an honor and a privilege to come into your homes all these years and entertain you. And I hope when I find something that I want to do and I think you will like and come back, that you'll be as gracious in inviting me into your home as you have been. I bid you a very heartfelt good night.
In 2002, the Johnny Carson version of The Tonight Show ranked number 12 on TV Guide's 50 Greatest TV Shows of All Time and number 22 on their list of the 60 Best Series. Now, civil rights movement on this date in 2002, a jury in Birmingham, Alabama, convicted former Ku Klux Klan member Bobby Frank Cherry of the 1963 murder of 4 girls in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. In 2003, Security Council of the United Nations approving a resolution lifting the economic sanctions against Iraq and supporting the U.S.-led administration in Iraq. 2004, the town of Hallam, Nebraska, wiped out by a powerful F4 tornado that broke a width record 2.5 miles wide. It also killed 1 local resident. Back in 2011, an EF5 tornado struck Joplin, Missouri. 158 people killed, $2.8 billion in damages, the costliest and 7th deadliest single tornado in U.S. history. In 2023 dollars, that would be over $3.8 billion. 22 people killed at an Ariana Grande concert in 2017 in the Manchester Arena bombing. Also in 2017, President Trump visited the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem and became the first sitting U.S. president to visit the Western Wall. Among those passing away on this date in history, I Married Joan Davis, passing away on this date in 1961 of a heart attack at the age of 53. Martin Gable, the husband of Arlene Francis, his most well-known radio work was on the VED broadcast On a Note of Triumph. He passed away in 1986 at the age of 63. Boxer Rocky Graziano died on this date in 1990 at the age of 71, heart failure. Hard to believe because Rocky Graziano had an amazing heart. And also passing away back in 2005, the voice of the original Tony the Tiger and You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Thurl Ravenscroft passing away. He was 91. Now, born on this date in history, from the Ritz brothers, and one of the Ritz brothers, Harry Ritz, he was in Silent Movie. That was a funny one. He was born on this date. Sir Laurence Olivier, born on this date as well. TV announcer, Johnny Olson.
Come on down! You are the first 4 contestants on The Prize is Right. And now, here's the star of The Prize is Right, Bob Barker.
Johnny Olson was a great announcer, but also something that you may not know. He was a wonderful warm-up man for all of these old shows. He did a great job on that. Also born on this date, TV producer Quinn Martin, T. Boone Pickens, and Kenny Ball, Susan Strasberg, Michael Saracen, Judith Christ, Michael Considine from Room 222 and My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and Bernard Shaw from CNN passed away last year, 82 years of age. Conductor pianist Peter Nero did a lot of great music, 89 years old today. From Goodbye Columbus and He and She with his wife Paula Prentice, Richard Benjamin, 85 years old. Bernie Taupin, the lyricist with Elton John, 73 today. From the musical group of the same name, Morrissey, 64 years old. Naomi Campbell, 52, the daughter of Clint Eastwood, and had a starring role in Tightrope. 51 years old today is Allison Eastwood. Snow White in ABC's Once Upon a Time, Jennifer Goodwin, 45. From Nikita, Divergent, and Designated Survivor, Maggie Q, 44. And former WWE wrestler, now with All Elite Wrestling, he was Daniel Bryant there. And in AEW, he's Bryan Danielson, and he's 42 today. Those some of the people celebrating the 22nd day of May is their birthday. If this is your birthday.
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you.
And from 68 years ago, May 22nd, 1955, X-1, Knock. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on this Monday here on your favorite radio station. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox going back 68 years, May 22nd, 1955, X-1, knock.
Countdown for blastoff. X-5, -4, -3, -2, X-1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in 1,000,000 could-be years on 1,000 would-be worlds. The National Broadcasting Company presents X, minus 1. Tonight, the science fiction classic Knock by Frederick Brown. Tonight we have a strange story to tell. A sweet, blood-curdling little story that is really only 2 sentences long. The last man on Earth sat alone in a room. There was a knock at the door.
What's that?
Good morning, man.
What? Who are you?
You have regained consciousness.
Who are you?
I am Zan.
I'm still asleep, I must be.
You are not asleep.
Maybe if I close my eyes, it'll go away.
I will not go away, man.
No. I guess I'm awake. What are you?
I am a Zan.
What's that?
A Zan is intelligent life.
Look, I don't... What happened? Where are you from?
From Planet 7 in the 3rd galaxy in the 4th quadrant.
Where?
It is not necessary to repeat information which is correct in the original statement.
Planet 7, but... You mean I'm not on Earth?
You are still on your planet.
Then what are you doing here?
The Zans have annexed your world.
You mean you've conquered Earth?
Yes, that is correct. We will now prepare your planet for habitation by the Zan.
How about the people? What about the population of the world?
You are the population of the world.
Huh? Now, wait a minute. I can't... I don't understand what's happened.
The Zan have landed on your planet. We have removed the lower life forms to prepare for colonization by the Zan.
When did all this happen?
2 days ago. You have been unconscious until now.
You really mean I'm the last man on Earth?
That is correct. Identify yourself now.
What?
Kindly provide data as to your position in the elementary social order of your planet.
Oh. I'm Walter Phelan, Associate Professor of Anthropology at Nathan University. How do you speak English?
We have deciphered your written and recorded records. It is not difficult to reconstruct your language. It is a primary type of auditory communication.
Oh.
Is there anything you want to complete your natural habitat?
You mean I'm a prisoner?
That is correct. What will you want further in your room?
Do I have to stay here?
Yes.
The rest of my life?
Forever.
You better bring me my books.
That will be done.
That's rather considerate of you. You know, I've got to call you something. Do you mind if I call you George?
It is immaterial. I will be back, Associate Professor of Anthropology.
Oh, that's all right, George. Just call me Walter.
Very well, Walter. I will be back with your books.
All right, George. I'll be seeing you around.
You will not be around, Walter. You will be here.
Come in. Oh, hello, George.
Hello, Walter.
Wait a minute. You're not George. You're different somehow.
It makes no difference. The Zan are many, and they are one.
Then I'll call you George, too. I'll call you old George. What can I do for you?
Point 1. You will please henceforth sit with your chair facing the other way.
Uh-huh. I thought so, George. That plain wall is different from on the other side, isn't it?
That is correct. It is transparent.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm in a zoo, right?
That is correct.
How many other animals do you have in the zoo, George?
216.
Not complete, George. Even a Bush League zoo could beat that. Did you just pick at random?
Yes. All species would have been too many. Male and female, each of 108 kinds.
Male and female, huh? Of all the animals?
There is a female of your species among the collection.
Anyone I know? Well, never mind. It doesn't matter anyway. Well, what do you feed us all, eh?
For carnivorous species, we make synthetics. The flora was not hurt by the vibrations which destroyed animal life.
Oh, nice for the flora. Well, George, you started out with point 1. I deduce there is a point 2 kicking around somewhere. What is it?
Something we do not understand.
Oh?
2 of the other animals sleep and do not wake. They are cold.
Don't worry, George. It happens in the best regulated zoos.
What is wrong with them, Walter?
Nothing much. They're just dead.
Dead?
Mm-hmm.
That means stopped. But nothing stopped them. Each was alone.
Well, maybe they just died of old age.
Old age? I do not understand.
You don't? Well, how old are you, George?
Your planet went around the sun about 7,000 times since I was born.
7,000 years?
Yes, I am still young.
Yeah, a babe in arms. Look, George, you've got something to learn about this planet you've hijacked. Here on Earth, we've got somebody you don't know where you come from. An old man with a beard and an hourglass and a scythe. Your vibrations didn't kill him.
What is he?
Oh, old man Death. Down here, our people and animals live until somebody, the Grim Reaper, stops them.
He will stop more?
Well, he gets us all, George. With your lifespan, it won't seem like a minute and we'll all be gone. Looks like you made a mistake, George. And I don't think there's much you can do about it.
That is not correct. The Zan is a logical being. We will take action.
Well, George, where are you taking me?
We will be there shortly. We will bring your books and your chair.
You mean my lease is up?
I do not understand.
It's moving day?
That is correct. We are here now. You will live here now, Walter. It is a larger room.
Well, be it ever so humble, there's no place like home.
Go inside.
Oh, be careful with those books, George. Don't lose my... Oh, excuse me.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
I guess George didn't explain. George tries to be polite, but he hasn't quite caught on yet. I'm Walter Phelan.
My name is Grace Evans, Mr. Phelan. What's all this about? Why did they bring me here?
I think I know why, but let's go back a bit. Do you know just what has happened otherwise?
No, not exactly.
Well, I've been talking to George.
George?
Well, that's what I call them, all of them. There's no way to tell them apart anyway. There aren't many of them here yet. They come from outside the solar system, sort of an advanced scouting party.
I saw their spaceship. It's as big as a mountain.
Yeah, they're moving in on us. They cleaned off the Earth with some kind of vibration. It destroys all sorts of animal life. I don't know whether they did it all at once or if they had to circle the Earth a few times, but they killed everybody.
No. I was afraid
The cheerful note is that you and I and 200-odd other animals were picked up beforehand as specimens for the zoo. You do know this is a zoo, don't you?
I suspected it. But I don't remember anything about being captured. I just woke up here.
Well, my hunch is they used the vibrations just low enough to knock us all out. And then they cruised around, picking up samples at random. When they were all set, they turned the juice on full blast.
How terrible.
Yeah, well, they solved a lot of problems for us. Housing shortage, wars, even the atomic bomb. I don't suppose the human race, you and I, have to worry about anything now.
It's awful.
Only they made a mistake. They underestimated us.
I don't understand.
They thought we were immortal.
That we were what?
Immortal, like they are. Oh, they can be killed, but the Zans don't know what natural death is. They didn't know anyway until they lost 2 of us yesterday.
You mean there are more than 2 of us?
Oh, not more of our species, no. These were merely fellow animals, a rabbit and a canary. And by the Zan's way of figuring time, the rest of us are only good for a few minutes apiece. It's a joke on them. They figured they had permanent specimens here in the zoo.
Well, didn't they even know we'd all die eventually?
I don't think so. George, that is the second Zan I saw, told me he was 7,000 years old, and he's young by their standards. When they learned how quickly we die, they were practically shocked to the core, if they have cores.
How can you talk that way about it?
Academic detachment. I learned it at faculty teas. At any rate, they've decided to reorganize their zoo. 2 by 2.
What, are they going to keep us locked up together in this one little room?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. There's plenty of furniture, though, and George promised to bring me my chair.
We've got to do something.
Why?
Well, I don't know. It just seems to me we owe it to the human race to do something.
Oh, well, perhaps you have a suggestion?
There must be some way. They can be killed, you said.
Oh, yes, I've been studying them. They look horribly different, but I think they have about the same metabolic and digestive system as we. I think that anything that would kill one of us would kill one of them.
But you said 7,000 years.
Yeah, I think I figured it out. Now, George cut his, I suppose you'd call it his hand, when he brought in my books. It started to bleed, red blood. But I could see the cut closing as he stood there. By the time he left, it was healed.
I don't understand.
Well, you see, whatever factor there is in man that makes him grow old is missing in the Zan.
Interesting theory. We'll explore that in our next half hour. May 22nd, 1955, X-1 on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The news from 68 years ago today follows these messages from your favorite radio station. Just going to take a minute here to tell you about the big savings going on now, the clearance sale at mypillow.com. And you know, I've talked about how in my office I have a pair of my slippers, and they're really comfortable, and they're on clearance right now. The mypillow.com slippers, $25 a pair, limit 10. And I would buy 3 or 4 more pairs. Unfortunately, they're out of my size. They also have sheets, pillowcases, clothing items, all on special right now. Go to mypillow.com, click on the clearance tab at the top of the page, use my promo code Wyatt, or call 1-800-928-4715. Limited sizes remaining in the MyPillow slippers, limited colors on other items. mypillow.com, clearance tab, promo code Wyatt, 1-800-928-4715. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station, an episode of X-1, Knock, as it was originally broadcast Sunday, May 22nd, 1955. In the newspapers of that Sunday, 68 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The government yesterday summoned top polio experts and a vaccine manufacturer to a safety standard conference in Washington, at which it will propose complete retesting of all unreleased vaccine supplies. The manufacturers were reported by one high industry source to feel such a move is unnecessary and would force at least a month's delay in the nation's lagging inoculation program. The Public Health Service announced representatives of all 6 Salk vaccine producers, top polio scientists, and officials of the National Institutes of Health will attend the conference. Senator George, the Democrat from Georgia, said yesterday the U.S. must not give up European air bases or reduce its military strength there, despite any bold move by Russia to erect a neutral zone between East and West. George, who heads the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, told newsmen there are no present circumstances under which we can afford to give up our air bases or decrease our forces in Europe. U.S. officials yesterday ruled out any interruption in U.S. aid to Yugoslavia pending the outcome of a visit of Russian leaders to Belgrade. This Soviet diplomatic mission, Washington officials now believe, may intensify Marshal Tito's avowed middle position between the Russians and the Western powers, but probably will not substantially alter his basic relations with the West. Direct U.S.-led China talks on Formosa within 60 days predicted yesterday by Indian government sources, but U.S. officials in Washington say they were in dark about the reports. According to White House Press Secretary James C. Hagerty, quoting, "I know nothing about it." The State Department spokesman said his department was awaiting a report from John Sherman Cooper, the U.S. ambassador to India. Cooper's report is expected soon, after he confers with V.K. Krishna Menon, who left Peiping for New Delhi yesterday after talks with Red Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai. Howard Simon's reporting in Washington there's a subtle book burning underway in Washington. Informative and inexpensive books published by the government for the public are being withdrawn from further publication or being re-edited. Principal targets are the how-to-do-it books. A few have already been discarded, and more can expect to disappear from federal bookstores. They can be expected, however, to turn up again at the bookstores of private publishers at higher prices. One of the government printing office's How to Do It books, a bestseller for 34 years, is now in its death throes. Care and Repair of the House, which had a profitable and record-breaking sale in 1954 of 33,500 copies, will not be reprinted. The book being discarded because it seems to be competitive with privately published books, and because it deals with a subject that is now considered hardly appropriate within the fields of the Department of Commerce. Those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, May 22nd, 1955, on your radio X-1, which will continue following these messages here on this Monday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station. Tuesday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Gerald Moore, The Adventures of Philip Marlowe from May 23rd, 1950, The Fox's Tale. Max has evidence against Shepard the Gangster, but he doesn't live to deliver it. That's on Tuesday's Classic Radio Theater. By the way, later today, if your station carries hours 2 and 3, you'll hear both Jack Benny and Fred Allen, Jack Benny's Spinal Radio Show from 1955. Alrighty, now the conclusion of X-1, 68 years ago, May 22nd, 1955, knock.
Their regenerative powers must be unlimited. They just don't wear out. They go on and on until they're stopped.
Suppose we killed one. There must be some way.
Oh, what would be the use? They wouldn't even punish us. They'd just give us our food through a trapdoor and put up a sign saying, "Beware of the man. Dangerous."
I don't think they'll even have to bother in your case. I don't see anything funny.
I'm sorry. It just reminds me of Martha.
Martha?
My wife. She died 2 years ago.
I'm sorry.
Well, not at all. It was a pleasure. That'll be George with my books. Come in. Hello, George.
Hello, Walter. Point 1, I have brought your books.
Point 1, eh? What else is on your mind?
Another creature sleeps and will not wake.
Oh?
A small feathered one called a duck.
Well, it happens, George. I warned you. Old Man Death, the Grim Reaper. I told you about him.
Walter, the Council of Zan has met. It has been decided logically that A, no life form can withstand the full strength vibrations with which we cleared your planet. Therefore, the Grim Reaper you spoke of does not exist.
Pretty neat, George. What's B?
B, the only intelligent life to escape the vibrations is you. Therefore, the logical conclusion is you are stopping these animals by some means unknown to us.
George, you are off your trolley.
You will tell me now how this is done.
You've got me.
Yes, we have. It is necessary to save the remaining specimens as long as possible. If we do not get the information, we may be forced to dispense with your species entirely. This means you, Walter, and the female.
Now, hold on, George. Don't go off half-cocked. Let me take a look at these animals that won't wake up.
I will take you there now. Go first, Walter.
After you, my dear George.
This is the weasel.
Now, you should have got him in the winter, George. The fur's worth more then. It's ermine.
This is the reptile cage. Here are the ducks. That is the male. The female has been stopped.
Yeah, lucky girl. What's the matter, fellow? Lonely?
Walter, you will tell me how you stopped the female duck.
Oh, you got me, George. I didn't do it. Maybe she died of the Dutch elm blight.
Walter, you are not being logical. We have concluded you are stopping these animals. Tell us now how it is done.
I've told you, George. I haven't the foggiest notion.
Very well. We will have to take further action.
Oh, what are you going to do, George?
We will go back now to your room.
What happened, Mr. Phelan?
You might call me Walter. After all, George does. And we have more in common.
Please, what happened?
Oh, just a duck, a dead duck. George thinks I killed her by remote control. He wants me to tell him how.
Did you?
Look, I'm just an ordinary anthropologist. There's no telling what those animals died of, just natural causes. But George can't see it that way. He thinks I'm holding out on him.
Good.
What?
At least we can get back at them some way. At least we can do something to them.
Well, why? After all, George isn't a bad fellow, if you like an ant mentality.
How can you say that? Well, they murdered the human race.
I suppose so, but we can't change that now, so why think about it?
We just can't sit here and do nothing.
I fail to see how we can do anything else.
But at least we could be fighting.
I can't see the virtue in that. I was more or less content with my books, and we've got George to talk to.
Of all the men in the world they had to pick, don't you want to fight back? Don't you want to keep on fighting to the end?
It hadn't occurred to me.
But we've got to, Walter.
Why?
Well, I can't really explain it, but, Walter, if there was any good in man, it was that he kept on struggling against nature and In the end, even against himself. But he kept on fighting for what he thought was right, and we're all that's left. Walter, we just can't end by giving up. We've got to keep on fighting.
You know, you do remind me of Martha.
There isn't much left for us. We could beat them in this one small thing. We can pretend there's a secret about death. We could refuse to tell them anything.
Well, there isn't anything to tell.
But they don't know that. Promise me you won't give in.
Well, I suppose the worst they can do is kill us. All right, Miss Evans. Hello, George.
Hello, Walter. Now you will tell us how these animals are stopped.
George, this may come as a shock to you, but I've decided not to tell you.
Why?
Oh, a romantic attachment to lost causes. My grandfather was a Confederate officer.
Walter, you are not being logical.
Neither was my grandfather. He charged a Yankee battery with 1 round of ammunition and a corncob pipe.
You are not logical, but that is expected in lower life forms. You will come with me now, Walter.
Where are you taking him?
To the 2nd level. Go now, Walter.
You won't tell them.
I can't guarantee anything, but as of now, I don't intend to.
We've got to fight, Walter. Remember that. We've got to go out fighting.
Yes. Yes, I think you're right.
Go now, Walter.
Goodbye.
It's been a pleasure, Miss Evans.
I am waiting. Go now, Walter.
After you, my dear George.
You will tell us now, Walter? That was the 1st level of vibration. There are many more. However, we have calculated that none of them exceed your threshold of unconsciousness.
Oh, very clever, George.
Of course. You will tell us now? How do you stop these animals? You will tell us now?
As of now, no. However, I'm not very brave, if that encourages you, George.
You are not being logical, Walter.
You're telling me.
We will now use vibration level 2. Walter, you are still conscious.
Let me alone, George.
You will tell us now. You will tell us now how you stop the animals.
Let me alone. Let me alone.
We have had vibration levels 1 and 2. There are still 15 more before your threshold of unconsciousness.
No. Let me alone.
Walter, listen to me. Another creature sleeps and will not wake. We must know now.
It's tough. You better start vibrating again, George.
No.
What?
It would not be logical. We have calculated that no further level of vibration will overcome your irrational psychological block. We conclude you will not tell.
And let me go?
That is correct.
That's real nice of you, George. I appreciate it.
We have calculated that the resistance of the female of your species will be lower. We will now place her under the vibrations.
No, George, you can't do that. No, listen, George. George, there is no secret. Can you understand that? There is no secret. Those animals died from natural causes. I'm telling you the truth.
That is not a logical answer. We will get the woman.
I've told you the truth. Can't you understand?
We must know now. The female animal cage next to the duck has been stopped. We must preserve the survivor.
The animal next to the duck?
We will bring the woman here. She will tell us after the vibration.
No. Listen, George. You want the truth? You want to know how to save the mates of the animals that have been stopped?
You will tell us now?
Yes, I'll tell you now. I give up. But you've got to promise to leave the woman alone. You promise, George?
If we receive the answer from you, Walter, there will be no further need for the vibrations.
Well, I guess that'll have to do. All right. All right. Take me to that stopped animal. I'll tell you how to save the mate.
Very well, Walter. You are being logical now. We will go.
Walter, are you all right?
Just let me catch my breath a minute.
What did they do? What happened?
After a while, I told them what they wanted to know.
Oh, no.
As George pointed out, it seemed to be the logical thing at the time.
But you promised.
I know.
It was our last chance to beat them on even one little thing.
Perhaps. You mind if I sit down?
You gave up.
I suppose you could call it that. I'm very tired.
They've beaten us completely, then. There isn't even anything we can do. The last of the human race, and we give up. We don't even die fighting.
Oh, it isn't that bad. Something might turn up, Martha.
What did you call me?
Huh? No, I must have said Martha. Sorry, she was my wife. She died 2 years ago. What were you saying?
Nothing. It doesn't matter. It's too late. It's too late for the whole human race.
What now, George?
The Council of the Zan has met.
Oh, something wrong, George?
A Zan has been stopped.
What?
Zan is dead?
That is correct.
Well, you didn't believe me, George. But you can die. You can really die. You'll have to get used to that if you're going to stay here.
The council has decided. A, you have in some way stopped this Zan. B, you and the woman must be eliminated.
Walter.
No, you've got it wrong, George.
The council has decided. This time you will have the full vibration.
This time? Walter, what did they do to you?
Oh, they have a rather effective third degree.
They tortured you, Walter?
Yes.
And I thought... Oh, Walter, it was all my fault.
I wouldn't even have tried without you. I suppose we have a last chance now to end with some dignity.
I think you're a very brave man, Walter.
No, not very. There isn't much else to do. Do we go now, George?
Now, Walter. Wait.
What's that?
I have been told another Zan has died.
Now will you believe me?
The council of the Zan meets now.
2 gone already, and you were with me, George. You know I didn't kill this one.
What stopped him then?
I told you, it's old man Death. You came to the wrong planet, George. Your immortality doesn't go down here. He can stop you, but you can't stop him. And you'll all die if you stick around. What now?
The council has decided. This is a place of death. We will leave your planet.
Leave? You mean you're giving up?
It is not safe for the Zan.
Oh, Walter, they're leaving. They're really going.
Come on then, George. And don't hurry back.
It would not be logical to do so. We are leaving the Earth now. Goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye, George. Well, they're all aboard now.
So wonderful to feel the sun and the wind again.
Yeah, they've closed the hatches.
Walter, is it safe for us to be out here?
Yes, they're not interested in us any longer. They only want to get away. And I want to see this, Grace. The Zan leaving Earth forever. They're blasting off.
There they go.
Yes, it's all over now. Well, I suppose we might as well go back in.
I still don't understand. Walter, what made them go?
I just told them the facts of life.
Of death, you mean?
No, of life. After all, I thought George was old enough to know. At 7,000 years, he was going to be a pretty big boy.
I wish you'd stop joking and tell me what happened.
Look out for the step. Well, you remember when the first animals died?
The rabbit and the duck?
Yeah, and their mates just started to pine and waste away?
Yes.
Well, that worried the Zan. They wanted to keep the last specimens alive if they could. So finally, I broke down and told them about affection.
Affection?
Yes. And then I introduced Donald.
Donald, who's that?
Here we are. Grace, meet Donald.
Oh, Walter, please, what does affection have to do with it?
That's what the Zan wanted to know. I told him it was love that made the world go round. That having lost his mate, Donald would die immediately unless he had affection and constant petting.
Petting?
I even showed him how. Here, fella, come on. Come here. Yeah. I held Donald in my arms, and I petted him a while. Then I let the Zan take over with the animal in the next cage.
What animal?
Take a look.
You mean this cage?
Mm-hmm. Watch out. Don't go too close.
Walter, it's a rattlesnake.
Yes. Their metabolism made it impossible for them to die of old age, but I had a hunch that they could be poisoned.
Well, then it was the snake that killed the 2 Zan.
Mm-hmm. They never even knew what bit them.
Then you outwitted them, Walter.
Well, I suppose...
I thought you'd just given up. Oh, Walter, I'm so ashamed.
You don't have to be. I had given up. I probably wouldn't have fought if you hadn't pushed me. Well, we've got a world to plan. A new world, Grace.
I know.
We'll have to decide which animals to let out of the zoo and which ones it'd be safer to keep in. But first, there's a bigger problem.
What's that?
The human race.
Oh.
We've got to make a decision about that. Pretty important one.
Yes, but...
It's been a nice race, even if nobody won it. Of course, it may go backward for a while until it gets its breath, but we can save the books and all the most important things and get it started ahead once more.
No.
It's the Garden of Eden all over again. But, Eve, you'll have to watch out for that snake.
Now, don't be ridiculous, Walter.
You know, funny, you even blush like Martha. Only you're stronger than she was. Prettier, too.
I wish you'd forget about Martha.
I think I will, my dear. If you'll give me time.
Now, Walter Phelan, you listen to me. If you think for 1 minute that
I thought it would never happen to me again. But it is love that makes the world go round. So, Grace, if you could only...
No, I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on earth.
But that's exactly what I am.
I don't care. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm going out.
All right, my dear, but think it over. And please come back.
You see, I told you. It wasn't really so horrible, our story. Remember how it goes? The last man on earth sat alone in a room. And then there was a knock on the door.
Come in. Come in, Grace, my dear.
You see, it wasn't horrible at all. Tonight, by transcription, X-1 has brought you Knock by Frederick Brown, adapted for radio by Ernest Kinoy. Featured in the cast were Alex Scorby as Walter, Laurie March as Grace, and Louis Van Ruten as the Zan. X-1 was directed by Fred Way and is an NBC Radio Network production.
May 22nd, 1955. X-1 on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thanks for tuning in. Thank this station. Support their advertisers. Hope you'll visit our webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows, learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me, find our social media links, and you can also buy me a copy. That Buy Me a Copy money is what's helping us acquire a whole new run of Gunsmoke that will start here in a couple of weeks. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Tell all your friends the greatest radio shows of all time are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.